Last summer was strange. I'm 34 now, and I've lived in this small town my whole life. I taught agriculture and took care of my family's farm every summer. It was just what I did. But I can't shake off what happened that summer. One evening I noticed Hank, my prized bull, was gone. My gut sank. He was always there, big and strong. I called out for him, but there was only silence. Then I heard it, a low growl from the woods. It sent chills up my spine. I tried to brush it off. Kids love scaring each other at night. I thought it was a prank. Days passed, and every morning I hoped to see Hank in the pasture, but he never showed. Rumors spread around town. People whispered about sightings of a massive creature lurking in the woods. I shook my head, trying to ignore it. It was nonsense. But then I found strange footprints near my barn. They looked wrong. My heart started racing and doubt crept in. What if the townsfolk were right? One afternoon I saw Mr. Jenkins acting odd. He was squinting into the woods, shaking a bit. When I walked up to him, he startled like I had scared him. He mumbled about the woods being alive. I tried to question him, but his eyes were wild. I didn't know what to say. Maybe he was just stressed. The livestock started acting strange too. They whined and huddled together. I didn't understand it. I wanted to believe nothing was wrong. But every night, that growl echoed, louder each time. A sense of dread settled in me. The night before the county fair, I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside to look for Hank one last time. The air was thick and heavy. I heard the growl again, unmistakable. Fear gripped me. I approached the woods, feeling frozen. Then something moved in the shadows. A massive dark shape slipped between the trees. I couldn't breathe. It seemed too big to be anything I had seen before. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I just stared. Then there was silence. Whatever it had been vanished into the darkness. I turned to bolt back to the house, my breath coming in quick gasps. I had to know what was going on, but I was scared to find out the truth. The next day the fair began without Hank. The townsfolk were buzzing about the creature, but I kept quiet. Inside I was a mess. I wished I could forget that growl, that dark shape lurking in the woods. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had happened, and I could not explain it. Weeks went by and life moved on, but every night I thought of Hank. I never looked at the woods the same way again. Something was still out there, and I was afraid of what it might do next. I still don't know what happened that summer. The mystery lingers, heavy like the summer air. After the county fair, life continued, but I felt unsettled. Every rustle of leaves in the wind made me jump. The woods had changed for me. I couldn't look at them without remembering that dark shape. Then one evening I decided to take a walk. I thought maybe some fresh air would clear my mind. I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside, wary but determined to shake off my fears. I walked towards the edge of the woods, where I had last seen that shape. The sun was setting, casting long shadows. My heart raced with each step I took. I kept trying to convince myself that it was just my imagination running wild. I stopped at the spot where Hank had disappeared. I scanned the ground, hoping to find something, anything, that would give me answers. That's when I saw it. A glimmer of something shiny caught my eye, half buried in the dirt. I crouched down to inspect it. My heart began to pound as I realized it was a piece of metal, a broken collar with Hank's name engraved on it. I felt sick. My fears crashed over me like a wave. What had happened to my bull? Why was this here? I stood up quickly, glancing around as if expecting the thing from the woods to leap out at me. I needed to get back to the house. Panic surged in my chest. I took a few steps back when I heard a noise, a branch snapping behind me. I whipped around, flashlight beam dancing through the trees, and my blood ran cold. There it was again, that low growling sound, but this time it was closer. The shadows shifted, and I could swear I saw movement in the underbrush. My legs wouldn't move. I felt like I was frozen in place. The growl was deeper now, a chilling echo that seemed to reverberate in my bones. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted two glowing eyes peering at me from the dark. Terror gripped me. I turned and ran, abandoning my flashlight in the process. The sound of heavy footsteps followed closely behind. It felt like the creature was right on my heels, and my heart raced faster than I ever thought possible. I stumbled over roots and rocks, pushing myself harder. I finally reached the edge of the fields, illuminated by the lights from my house. I hurried inside and locked the door, panting heavily. I pressed my back against the wall, hoping to catch my breath. I could still hear it outside. The growl had turned into a snarl, a sound filled with anger and hunger. I felt my stomach drop. Something was out there, and it wasn't going away. I had to figure out what it was. I needed to know what had happened to Hank. My fingers trembled as I reached for my phone. Maybe I could call someone for help, but all I could think about was whether anyone would believe me. Then the growling stopped. The silence was deafening, broken only by the ragged breaths I took. I peeked through my curtains. Nothing but darkness, but the stillness felt wrong. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was out there, it was waiting for me to make the next move. I felt like the walls were closing in, and I knew I had to face this terror head on. I had to know the truth. The next morning I woke with the sun streaming through my window. The warmth was comforting, but I felt no relief. I couldn't shake the memories of the night before. I needed to figure out my next step. Abandoning my bull was not an option. I made some coffee to steady my hands, but as I poured, I couldn't help but glance at the woods. They loomed ominously outside, their branches swaying gently as if whispering secrets. I had to take action. After a quick breakfast, I grabbed my jacket and headed outside. I wasn't going to let fear control me anymore. I needed to gather more information, and I figured talking to Jake might be a good place to start. He was familiar with the woods and had lived in the area his whole life. Surely he had heard stories or rumors. I walked over to his house, the familiar path feeling different this time. Each crunch of gravel underfoot felt amplified. I knocked on Jake's door, trying to ignore the tightness in my chest. After a few moments, he opened it, scratching his head in confusion. "Hey, what's up? You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, concern creeping into his voice. "Can I come in? We need to talk." Once inside, I explained everything. Hank's disappearance, the collar I found, the growl in the woods. Jake listened intently, his brow furrowing deeper as I spoke. "You're not the first one to notice strange things lately, you know," he finally admitted. "There's been talk of something in the woods, animals going missing, weird noises at night." "Wait, you've heard this too?" I asked, my heart racing. "Yeah, my dad mentioned it. Old stories about a creature that makes those sounds. Something unnatural." He lowered his voice as if to avoid alerting any lurking shadows. "They say it's half beast, half something we don't understand." His words sent chills down my spine. A creature? Was that what I'd seen? I had come to Jake for answers, but now it felt like I'd stepped into a horror story. Suddenly I remembered something. Last night, I saw glowing eyes. What if it's still out there? "I don't know, but you shouldn't go near those woods alone anymore," he warned. His words hung heavy between us. I wasn't sure whether to feel reassured or even more frightened. I needed to confront this, but how? Before I could respond, Jake's eyes were drawn to something outside. I turned to look as well, my heart racing again. A shadow moved along the tree line, and I felt pale. What was that? "I don't know," Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. The shadow stopped, silhouetted against the sunlight filtering through the leaves. I squinted, trying to make it out, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. A sense of dread washed over me. "We need to go check it out," I insisted, surprising even myself. Jake shook his head vigorously. No way, that's just asking for trouble. But I noticed my resolve hardening. I needed answers. I had to find out what was in those woods, what really happened to Hank. It felt like the unspoken question hung in the air between us, and I couldn't turn away from it any longer. As I stepped out into the sunlight, I felt like I was being pulled at an invisible thread. If I didn't confront this now, it would always haunt me. I wouldn't let fear win. I needed to know the truth, and the woods were calling me back once more. I stepped into the sunlight, leaving Jake behind as I walked toward the woods. Each step felt heavier, but I pushed through. Curiosity and fear collided inside me, making it hard to breathe. I could almost hear the whispers of the trees beckoning me closer. The path was familiar, yet charged with an unfamiliar tension. My heart thumped loudly in my ears as I neared the edge of the forest. The underbrush was dense and tangled, every snap of a twig sounding like a warning. I paused, glancing back at Jake's house, wishing he would change his mind and come with me. But I pressed on. As I entered the tree line, the sounds of the outside world faded away. The air was damp and cool, the light filtering through the leaves, giving the forest an eerie glow. I felt a presence surrounding me, as if the woods themselves were alive. My breath quickened, but I fought to stay calm. I needed to gather clues, anything that might tell me what had happened to Hank. I walked deeper into the woods, the silence growing heavier with each step. The excitement of adventure was quickly replaced by a creeping apprehension. I stopped and listened harder, hoping for any sign of life. That's when I heard it, a rustling nearby. My instincts kicked in. I crouched low, peering through the thicket. A deer? No, it was too large. The underbrush broke apart to reveal a shadow sliding between the trees. It moved with a strange grace. My heart raced. Was it the creature Jake mentioned? I felt a knot in my stomach. I wanted to turn back, but my curiosity anchored me to the spot. Just then, I remembered Hank's collar. I pulled it from my pocket and clutched it tightly, as if it could somehow protect me. Suddenly, a low growl resonated from the direction of the shadow. My blood ran cold. It was closer than I realized. I took a shallow breath, inching back for cover, but my foot caught on a branch, snapping it loudly underfoot. The sound echoed through the air, and in an instant everything went still. The growl deepened, and I felt my heart leap into my throat. I had to move. I turned to run, but my instincts urged me to look back one last time. The shadow emerged from the trees, illuminated briefly by a shaft of light. It was a massive silhouette, more wolf than man, glistening eyes fixed on me. Then another sound pierced the silence, a sharp crash, as if something had fallen deeper in the woods. I froze, torn between fleeing and investigating. My breath quickened as I realized I wasn't alone anymore. Before I could decide my next move, a figure appeared through the leaves, stumbling toward me. It was ragged and dirty, fear etched on its face. "Help me!" they cried, and my heart dropped. That's when everything changed. I stared, my heart pounding as the figure staggered toward me. It was a woman, her clothes torn and mud-stained. Panic radiated from her, and I could see that she was even more terrified than I was. "What happened? Are you okay?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Please, they're coming. We need to hide," she gasped, eyes darting over her shoulder as if expecting something to pounce from the shadows. "Who's coming?" I pressed, trying to keep my voice calm despite the fear curling in my stomach. She grabbed my arm, her grip vice-like as she pulled me closer. "The thing in the woods, it's not just a monster. It's hunting." Her words sent chills down my spine. I glanced back toward where I'd seen the shadow, my instincts screaming at me to run. Before I could react, she turned and bolted deeper into the woods. I hesitated, unsure of what to do. Something inside urged me to follow. My curiosity overpowered my instincts, and I ran after her, branches snagging at my clothes as we maneuvered through the underbrush. She led me deeper into the forest, adrenaline giving her strength. "We need to get to the cave," she yelled over her shoulder. Cave. I had no idea what she was talking about, but I kept pace, my eyes scanning the trees for any sign of movement. The heavy silence from earlier returned, but now it was accompanied by the rapid thumping of my heart. Just as I was about to question her, she stopped abruptly, gesturing toward a dim outline in the distance. There, it's just ahead. I could barely see it, the mouth of the cave gaping like an invitation into darkness. With no time to think, I dashed toward it, my thoughts racing. The growl from earlier echoed in my mind. It hadn't been a trick of the wind. There was something in these woods. We stepped into the cave and she quickly pulled a few vines to block the entrance. "They can smell fear," she whispered, her eyes wide. I realized I was holding my breath. "What are we hiding from? What are you talking about?" "Wolves," she whispered. "But not just ordinary wolves. They're like shadows. They come out at night. I've seen them. They hunt in packs." I felt a rush of nausea. "What do you mean?" "Hank," she cried suddenly, wrenching my thoughts back to my dog. "He's the reason they're after me. He doesn't belong to me, but I was—" A growl erupted from the entrance of the cave, cutting her off mid-sentence. My heart raced. The shadows were here. "I have to get back to Hank," I said, my mind made up. "If he's involved in this, I need to help him." "No," she hissed, gripping my shoulder. "You can't. If they find you—" Before she could finish, the growl echoed louder, a low rumble that vibrated through the ground. The darkness shifted just outside, revealing a pair of glistening eyes set against the night. Then everything went dark. I woke up gasping, the cave cold against my back. Panic hit me like a wave as I realized I was alone. The woman was gone, and the shadows loomed outside, silent now but palpable in their threat. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing. The darkness inside the cave felt thicker, almost suffocating. I blinked, trying to focus. The entrance was still blocked by vines, but the growl had faded. Cautiously, I approached the cave mouth, peering through the gaps in the green. I needed to know what was out there. As I leaned out, I caught sight of the forest, a tangle of trees swaying gently in the wind. Despite the haunting stillness, I thought I could hear faint, eerie howls in the distance, like a terrible symphony marking their territory. My fists clenched. "Hank," I muttered. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was in danger. The thought of those shadowy wolves sent a shiver down my spine. They were real, and they were hunting. I couldn't let fear paralyze me. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the vines aside and stepped out, the crunch of leaves beneath my feet feeling loud in the silence. "Where are you, Hank?" I whispered, straining to listen. That's when I heard a noise, a branch snapping close by. I froze, heart hammering. The growl returned, low and menacing, echoing through the trees. My mind raced back to the woman's warning. They can smell fear. I wasn't even sure what to do. I took a step back, edging toward the safety of the cave. But then a flash of movement caught my eye. Through the dense underbrush, I saw something dart away, a figure, sleek and dark. It moved like a shadow, slipping through the trees with an unnatural grace. My breath caught. Was it the wolves? I had a decision to make. Retreat back into the cave felt safe, but abandoning Hank felt impossible. Something told me that whatever was lurking out there was connected to him. If only I could find him first. My instincts kicked in. I had to move, but quietly. I crept in the direction where I'd seen the figure disappear. Each step felt like a gamble, like I was walking into the lion's den. The howls grew louder in the distance, surrounding me as if I was prey. Then I spotted it, a familiar shape lying among the roots of a tree. Relief flooded over me. "Hank!" I rushed toward him, breathless but cautiously optimistic, but as I reached for him I realized he was whimpering, ears flat against his head. He wasn't the only one in the clearing. Slowly I turned my head and saw them. 5 pairs of gleaming eyes staring back at me from the shadows, their growls forming a menacing chorus. The very air thickened with tension. They were waiting. I held my breath, trapped between my dog and the pack. This was it. I had only moments to make a choice. But as I scooped Hank up, ready to run, I noticed something strange about the closest wolf. It stepped forward, muscles coiled but didn't attack. Instead, it tilted its head as if it knew me. And just like that, everything unraveled. Now I understood. It wasn't just a hunt. Then, without warning, they charged. I didn't think. I reacted. The moment the wolves charged, my legs kicked into gear. I sprinted back toward the cave, Hank clutched to my chest like a shield. I could hear their growls swelling behind me, a cacophony of raw power. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out everything else. Just as I reached the mouth of the cave, I stumbled. The ground gave way beneath me. A loose rock slipped, sending me to my knees. I almost lost my grip on Hank, but I yanked him closer, feeling the warmth of his body against my frantic heart. I glanced over my shoulder and saw them halt, mere feet away, eyes piercing through the shadows. They held back, as if waiting for something. Panic clawed at my throat. What were they waiting for? I scrambled back up, determination pushing me forward. "Sit tight, buddy," I whispered to Hank. I needed to figure out what was going on. I turned back toward the wolves, breath hitching. The lead wolf was bigger than the others, its fur a deep, ghostly gray illuminated by the fading light. It stepped closer, and I saw something strange. Its eyes were not just wild. They were intelligent. "Please back off," I found myself saying, clutching Hank tighter. I was talking to wolves like they could understand me. Maybe they could. My mind raced with the memories of the woman in the forest and her warnings. Nothing felt natural about this. The lead wolf paused, tilting its head again. Then, to my shock, it let out a low whine. The other wolves relaxed slightly, lowering their stance, though their eyes never left me. Were they communicating? Fear still coursed through my body, but a flicker of curiosity broke through. What was it trying to say? I took a small step forward, both scared and compelled. The howls in the distance seemed to wane, as if they were sensing a shift. "Hank is my dog," I breathed, the weight of my words feeling heavy in the air. "I'm not here to hurt you." The lead wolf moved even closer, almost hesitantly, but a sudden rustle from the bushes nearby made them all tense again. Startled, I spun around, heart racing once more. This could go from bad to worse in an instant. A flash of silver emerged, a smaller creature familiar in shape but not in nature. It was one of those shadowy figures I'd seen before. In moments, it stepped into the clearing. A strange woman, her eyes matching the wolf's gaze, emerged from the darkness. "Stop," she commanded, voice steady. The wolves visibly relaxed, but my confusion deepened. "They will not harm you if you do not threaten." My mind was racing, trying to piece everything together. "Who are you?" I stammered. "What you think you know is not the full truth," she replied cryptically. "But you're not safe here. Not yet." My heart sank. I thought I had reached some understanding, but now I was filled with even more questions. Who were these wolves? What was the connection between the shadows and the woman? And why was I still in danger? Just then, a distant howl pierced the air, chilling me to the bone. The pack's reaction was immediate, shifting their focus away from me and toward the sound. I swallowed hard. Whatever was on its way wouldn't be friendly. "Run!" the woman urged, eyes darting toward the thickness of the forest. "Now!" I hesitated for only a breath before bolting. Hank and I dashed into the trees, the unknown danger looming behind us. The forest closed in around us as I sprinted deeper into the shadows. The underbrush snagged at my legs, branches whipped my arms, but I couldn't stop. A growl echoed behind us, a sound of anger and hunger that fueled my fear. Hank was still beside me, his breathing rapid but steady. I couldn't let him down. This had become a fight for survival, and every instinct told me we needed to keep moving. I could feel the power of the wolves just behind us, their presence a dark cloud threatening to descend. "Where do we go?" I panted, glancing at Hank. His eyes were wide, a mix of confusion and reassurance. He trusted me. That had to count for something. I slowed for a split second, trying to get my bearings. The trees were looming giants, their branches intertwining like fingers grasping for something. Then I remembered the caves. Those other paths I had seen when I first stumbled across this place. "Come on," I urged Hank forward, pushing through a thicket of ferns. "We need to find shelter." As we dashed through the undergrowth, I spotted a narrow opening to my right. It looked like an old, half-hidden cave. I veered towards it, adrenaline surging with each step. The sound of howling was growing louder, a chorus of terror and danger that urged me to hurry. I squeezed into the cave, pulling Hank in after me. The darkness swallowed us instantly. My heart thudded in the silence, and I pressed my back against the cool stone wall. I held Hank close, feeling his fur beneath my fingers. It was comforting, but fear still coiled tightly around my chest. The echoes of howling faded outside, replaced by the rush of my breath. I strained to listen for any signs of danger. I was tempted to peek outside, but I knew it might be the worst decision I could make. "Hank," I whispered, "are we safe?" I needed reassurance, some sign that this was going to end well. But before he could answer, I heard something else, a soft scraping against the cave's entrance. A chill gripped me. More creatures? I clutched Hank tighter. The only light came through the opening, shadowy and distorted. I could make out a figure. Suddenly, everything felt wrong. The silhouette was too large, too unnatural. It shifted, and I caught a glimpse of a dreadful outline, its eyes gleaming in the darkness like a predator. What was this thing? Before I had time to react, a powerful growl erupted from the entrance. Not like the wolves. This was deeper, more menacing. My instincts screamed for me to move, to dive to safety, but I was frozen in terror. That's when I saw it. The figure rushed forward, and as the moonlight broke through the trees, I recognized it. Not a wolf, not a shadow. A massive bull, its eyes fire-like and wild, stormed toward our refuge as if the earth itself was trembling beneath its hooves. "Get down!" I shouted as the creature came barreling into the cave. My heart raced as I prepared for an encounter I never thought I would face. Then everything went dark. I gasped as I hit the ground, my instincts taking over. Hank did the same instinctively, curling close to me as the bull thundered into the cave. The air was alive with its frantic movements and the smell of wet earth. It was chaos wrapped in muscle and wildness. The creature didn't seem to notice us at first. It was trapped in its own panic, banging against the stony walls, snorting in confusion, eyes wide with fear. I stayed frozen, heart racing, praying it wouldn't catch sight of us. Hank trembled beside me, his soft whines barely audible over the noises. "Calm down, just stay still," I whispered, though part of me was screaming to escape. I was terrified of what would happen if the bull turned our way. The growl of the wolf pack still echoed in my ears, reminding me we were far from safe. Then all of a sudden the bull charged toward the entrance. I held my breath. Should I try to pull Hank back? Should we run? We could end up in the jaws of the wolves if we did. Just as I was about to make a decision, an unexpected sound cut through the chaos, wind rushing and leaves rustling. I squinted toward the entrance. The bull's frantic movements drew attention outside. I could make out shadows dancing in and out of the thin light. Were the wolves back? The massive creature reared up, stamping its hooves in panic as if trying to escape an unseen menace. Then it hit me. The wolves hadn't been chasing us. They had been chasing the bull. My heart dropped. The wild animal was merely a victim of its own fear, and now it had brought danger to our hiding spot. I peeked out, my heart racing. That's when I saw them. A pack of sleek, shadowy wolves, their eyes glimmering like tiny stars, encircling the cave. They were precise and deadly, watching the bull with eager anticipation. "Stay back, Hank," I murmured softly, sensing the threat escalating. I had to protect him. He was all I had. I looked for a way out. The narrow space seemed to be closing in around us. The bull's frantic movement stirred up dust and rocks, and a rush of adrenaline seized me. I needed to act. I weighed my options. My heart pounded, not just from fear, but from the urgency of the situation. This was life and death, not only for us, but for the bull as well. Suddenly, the cave shuddered with a loud crash, and I glanced back to see the entrance starting to cave in. The bull had rammed into it again. "No! Don't collapse!" I yelled, my voice rising in dread. Just then a flash of light caught my eye from deeper within the cave, a glimmer, a faint flicker. I scrambled to my feet, pulling Hank with me. "This way," I called as I darted toward the light. We had to find another exit, but as we moved, the space around us began to grow darker, and I felt the weight of danger close in. I could sense the wolves waiting just outside, eyes locked on our every movement. "Come on, Hank," I urged again, desperation seeping into my tone. Then I tripped over a stone, falling to the ground as shadows loomed nearer. That is when the first howl split the night. An echo of pure challenge. We were running out of time. I surged to my feet, panic igniting every nerve in my body. Hank pressed close at my side, and together we made for the flickering light ahead. It felt almost ethereal, like it could either guide us to freedom or lure us to doom. The howl echoed behind us again, sharper this time, as if the wolves were finally ready to make their move. With each step, the ground beneath my feet felt like a living entity, pulling me back toward the darkness. I shoved forward, urgency propelling me. Just as we reached the light, I saw it, a narrow opening that led deeper into the earth, illuminated by a strange, pulsating glow. The walls of the tunnel glistened as if lined with jewels, shifting in colors that reflected my mounting fear. "Hank, come on," I urged, glancing back just as one of the wolves leaped toward the entrance. My heart seized as its eyes locked onto me, predatory and hungry. There was no time to think, only to act. With a final push, I dove into the tunnel, dragging Hank in with me. We stumbled into the glow, and the air changed, thicker, warmer. I heard the distant howling grow softer behind us, but refused to let despair take root. I pressed on, clutching Hank like my lifeline, the echo of those wolves fading into a haunting murmur. The tunnel twisted and turned, and soon the glow brightened into a cavernous space. I stumbled into an opening, shocked by the sight before me. The interior was massive, unfathomable, like a secret underground world. Crystalline formations dripped from the ceiling like icicles, and a single beam of light sliced through from above, illuminating the ground below. "Are we safe?" I panted to Hank. He whined softly but held steadfast, his presence anchoring me. In that moment, a sound broke the silence, a scraping noise against stone. My heart raced. I wasn't alone. I turned slowly, scanning the vast darkness. From the shadows emerged the woman, the one who had warned me. Her appearance was almost electric, her eyes still dark yet somehow luminous within the cavern. "We need to leave now," she urged, urgency creasing her brow. "It's not safe." "What do you mean? The wolves?" "They're not done hunting," she interrupted, glancing back toward the entrance. "They will come for you, but there's a way out." Her voice was steady, though shadows flickered across her features, hinting at fear I hadn't noticed before. "Is there any way to stop them?" I demanded, desperate for assurance. She shook her head. "They are bound to this place, to a pact made long ago. You must go." "Leave my bull," I challenged, anguish flooding my voice. "He's out there. I can't leave him behind." The woman stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. Understanding the bond between man and beast is crucial. Your fear ignites their hunger. It will lead them to you. You cannot save him unless you confront this fear. Her words pierced through my panic like a shard of ice. Confront it how? I asked, wrestling between despair and determination. You must take a step beyond the darkness. Remember him as he was, a protector, not merely prey. She scanned the cavern, its walls breathing beneath the crystalline glow. Coming here, you've already made a choice. To move forward requires accepting that choice. As her swift words settled, I felt a strange connection in the air, an energy pulling at my very core. I could sense what she meant, a force thrumming quietly, challenging me to embrace the truth rather than shy from it. Eyes that glimmered in the distance filled my mind, not with terror but with memories of Hank's fierce loyalty. I'd seen him protect animals on the farm, mighty in his own way. Perhaps it was time to turn the tables. I can't run, I said finally, the resolve taking shape within. I'll face whatever is out there. Then go, she urged, a flicker of admiration in her eyes. But you must end the cycle of fear, only then will they let you pass. Tightening my grip on Hank, I stood firm. The darkness outside still hummed, but I felt a flicker of something raw, bravery flickering like a candle. I turned toward the entrance, feeling the heat of fear simmer within, the perfect balance of predator and prey. Taking a deep breath, I stepped back into the shadows and faced the unknown. The growls greeted me like an old friend as I neared the exit. But this time I felt different. I lifted my chin, summoning the memories of Hank's unwavering spirit, and let my voice rise above the growls. This is my home. Before I fully emerged from the tunnel, something shifted again. The darkness inside the growing pack seemed to ripple, throwing me off balance. They paused, confusion flashing in their eyes. "Hank," I called out, searching the shadows for my dog. The moment Hank emerged by my side, I understood the change. I had shifted the tenor of the encounter. The lead wolf stepped forward, and again that same intelligence sparkled in its depths. But something was still off. It felt like a confrontation was brewing in the air. "Why are you here?" the lead wolf growled, a tremor of challenge in its tone. Its pack crowded behind, holding their breath as if waiting for me to answer. Drawing closer, I summoned every ounce of courage. "I'm here for Hank," I declared, voice steady as a mountain. "We've been through thick and thin, and I won't abandon him." As if a spell had been cast, the wolves stilled, exchanging glances. I took a soft step forward, the shadows enveloping me. "I won't harm you nor allow fear to rule us. Let us navigate this together." The air felt electric, their eyes unblinking. Just as silence stretched to its limit, I felt that spark return, tapping into something primal deep within. Then sudden chaos erupted, a howl. The wolves surged forward like a tide. Instinct kicked in and I shielded Hank, but instead of violence, the pack flowed around us with a grace I hadn't expected. They formed a circle, embracing us in their shadowy domain, united rather than divided. In that moment, I realized something fundamental had shifted. Fear hadn't dissipated entirely, but it had transformed into understanding. And somehow, I knew that was the key. The lead wolf stepped closer, eyes boring into mine with fierce recognition. An unspoken pact formed in that charged air, a recognition that we were intertwined in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. As the night drew on, I understood the hunt wasn't just for fear or prey. It connected us all in an intricate dance of survival. With Hank by my side, I felt a flicker of truth that perhaps there were no absolutes in this strange world, a blurring between predator and protector, between the shadows and the light. But as the moon climbed its high arc, casting flickering silver across the pack, lingering questions curled in my mind. What lay in the shadows that could still pulse with menace? What old stories lingered in the whispers of the wind? And could trust grow from a bond so fragile, still awaiting a moment to fracture? Springing forward, I knew the shadows would never leave, and maybe they weren't meant to. But facing them head-on opened doors I would never have imagined. The hunt wasn't over, it had only just begun. And as I ventured forth, entwined with Hank and the pack, I braced for whatever unknown lingered in the dark.